Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey. I'm an ERISA and individual disability attorney, and I want to welcome you to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar tells me that I have to tell you that this podcast is not legal advice. However, I will tell you that nothing will ever stop me from giving you an easy-to-understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that disability carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. Ready? Now, I know making the decision to reduce your hours and apply for residual disability benefits, or to make the difficult decision to stop work completely and apply for total disability benefits, can be tough. I watched my dad make this decision many years, and he agonized over it. It took him a couple years to finally decide that he was going to stop work and apply for his benefits. Now, you may think that once you've made that decision and you filed your disability insurance application, that your first disability check is going to be FedExed to you overnight, just within hours of you applying for your benefits. Well, I know your doctor supports your claim and maybe your employer supports your claim, but I will tell you that's not the way it happens. Disability carriers are going to be reviewing your application from three different perspectives. The first is, what are the terms of your policy or plan that are applicable to your claim? Secondly, what's the sufficiency of the medical proof that establishes that you're disabled, as that term is defined by your policy or plan? And your occupation, as that term is also defined by your policy or plan, and whether or not you're unable to perform the material and substantial duties of that occupation. In this multi-part series, I have been talking about occupational factors. I've already covered the topics of what your specific occupational duties were prior to the onset of disability, what were the specific mental and physical requirements associated with each and every duty, how long you performed each one of these duties in the course of an average day or week, how the disability carrier goes about verifying your occupational duties, how important the date of onset is as it relates to what your occupation was, the status of your license, the results of those database and social media searches that the disability carrier and plan are going to do, the results of the criminal background checks that they are going to do, and the results of their unemployment background check that they have done on you. A lot of background work, isn't it? But today, I want to switch topics a little bit, a little focus difference. What we're going to talk about today is, do you have a job to return to? Are there situational factors that impact your motivation to return to work? And these are the kind of stupid questions that the carrier is going to ask you when you apply for benefits. And I want to give you an example of how one disability carrier rejected a claim and was ultimately overturned by a disability carrier. And this disabled policyholder had scheduled electroshock treatments, and the disability carrier claimed that that was to bolster their claim when the position was eliminated. So we've got some great topics to talk about today. But before we start in, let's take a short break. Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. All right, you may be asked by the disability carrier this question: do you have a job to return to? Now, the disability carrier or plan administrator is going to contact you at regular intervals and have you fill out activity of daily living forms. One of the questions you're going to get on these forms is, do you have a job to return to? So why are they asking you that question? Some policies say that if your employer can make reasonable accommodations for your disability, you have to try to go back to work, or your claim is going to be denied. Now, policies may also provide vocational services to assist you in returning to work. Obviously, the disability carrier wants to pay you as little as possible. And if the disability carrier understands that there is an opportunity to return you to work, either with your employer or some other employer, they want to make sure that you are offered this opportunity and take advantage of it. Now, I also want you to remember that many disability policies or plans have recurrent disability policy provisions that say if you become disabled again from the same medical condition in a specific period of time, generally 6 months, you can claim disability again without having to satisfy the elimination period. Now, that can make any attempt to return to work more like a trial work period rather than one that can result in your ultimate claims denial. I think that the policy language or plan language is key. I want you to read it cover to cover, and I want you to pay particular attention to whether or not there are any reasonable accommodation provisions in the plan or policy. Because if there is, then you might want to say that in response to this question that you're unaware of whether you have a job to return to, but that if the employer could accommodate your restrictions and limitations of X, Y, and Z, that you would be more than happy to attempt a return to work and to do so consistent with your physician's restrictions and limitations. Now, again, I also want you to pay particular attention to that recurrent disability provision, because if ultimately you do go back to work, we want to take a hard look at that provision, because I treat these as trial work periods. If you go back to work and you're beginning to have problems, then we want to make sure that they're documented in your medical records, because if you're having trouble and you can't do it, we want to make sure that your doctor's taking you back out of work again, and certainly well before that recurrent disability provision kicks in. Got it? Now, do you have a job to return to? Now you know how to answer that question. Let's take a break.